Hi, welcome to the Refugee Welcome Collective Lunch and Learn series. In these sessions, we aim to bring interesting and timely information to you, supporters of refugees. Whether you're a volunteer, community sponsor, resettlement agency staff, a local advocate, or just someone who's interested in learning more, we hope that you enjoy today's session, FDIC's Money Smart, helping newcomers with financial literacy. Refugee Welcome Collective collaborates with partners to provide in-depth training programs, weekly learning sessions, resources, and on-demand technical assistance for sponsors, practitioners at resettlement agencies, refugees paired with sponsors, community and institutional partners, and others to support quality community sponsorship programs across the United States. Some housekeeping. As a reminder for everyone joining the call today, there is a control panel in your upper right-hand corner that will allow you to submit questions through the questions box. Please use that questions pane or questions box instead of the chat. There will be ample time at the end of the webinar for Q&A. Everyone on today's webinar is automatically muted. However, if you have any tech issues, please raise your hand through the control panel or submit a question in the questions box so we can try to assist you. Additionally, the presentation, any resources, and a recording will be sent to everyone following today's webinar. And this brings us to today's presentation for today and our presenter, which is myself, Derek Feldman. I'm a Senior Community Sponsorship Technical Assistance Associate with Refugee Welcome Collective. Grace, go ahead to the next slide. Thanks. Before I get started, I just want to kind of say a quick, this month, April, is Financial Literacy Awareness Month. So that's one of the reasons why we chose to cover this topic at this time. Also, just a little bit of background about myself. Before I worked in refugee resettlement, so about 10 years ago or more, I worked for a nonprofit that focused on alleviating issues of poverty. And one of my jobs, one of my responsibilities was running a financial education program. It came with a grant that provided matched funds for people. So, and people who had like an income that was considered I think it was up to 150% of poverty. Anyway, they could save some of their own money and then get that money matched and they could use that money towards buying a new home, starting or expanding a small business, or paying for education, college, things like that. And so one of the requirements of the program was to complete a financial literacy curriculum. And so the one that we utilized at the time was the FDIC, which is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. It's something set up by Congress essentially to stabilizing the banking industry. And many of you perhaps are familiar with the fact that, you know, if you put your money in a bank that is FDIC, you know, insured, that all of your money up to $250,000 is completely insured by the United States government. You can't lose it. Even if the bank goes under, you still have your money. So anyway, perhaps because of the news and things like that, that's an important thing to comment. But okay, so I just wanted to kind of touch a little bit on that, my past experience with that. And so today we're going to be talking about the FDIC's Money Smart curriculum. Today's objectives: to recognize which refugee resettlement core and wraparound services relate to financial literacy in general, to become familiar with the FDIC's Money Smart financial literacy curriculum, and to learn how to utilize the How Money Smart Are You game. They call it a game. It's sort of a presentation that sort of asks questions and quizzes, and so I guess there's a game aspect to it, where you kind of earn virtual points or virtual coins. But it also has some key takeaways and some specific tools And so we'll be talking about those things. And those, really to increase newcomer financial knowledge and skill. And so you as a potential sponsor, co-sponsor, volunteer, agency staff perhaps, can utilize these, this curriculum, these tools to be able to help clients that we're working with. Go ahead to the next slide, please, Grace. Thank you. So just as a level set, generally going into this stuff, I want to highlight the importance of empowering clients to reach their self-sufficiency goals. We talk about it from the beginning throughout the entire refugee resettlement process, the importance of empowering clients, working with them, providing knowledge, skill, encouragement for them to reach their own self-sufficiency goals. So that they can take care of themselves and their families, and because they are best positioned to make choices for themselves about their future and their goals and what they would like to accomplish in their life. And so we're always thinking with an eye towards not just doing for clients, but teaching them how to do things for themselves. So throughout the process, always keeping that in mind. Second, it's always important to practice cultural humility and to respect the client agency, to respect especially when it comes to financial issues and big term, big goals and things like that, that we're always recognizing that clients are the ones in the best position to make decisions about themselves and their family. We certainly want to give them as much information as we can, but it is not our job to make decisions for our clients in any sort of way, to tell them what to do, even if we think it's best for them to make some decision about, some particular thing that comes up and that they want to do this thing, and we think to ourselves, no, that's going to be a bad decision, that's going to cost you in the long run, that's really going to be difficult or something like that. You certainly can offer information and make sure that they understand potential consequences of their decisions, but in the end, it absolutely is up to them to make those decisions. We have to respect that and encourage them once they make those decisions. So always important to keep that in mind and to practice that throughout. Then third, also, check with the resettlement agency that you are partnering with. If you're a co-sponsor group or volunteer, check with them for additional guidance, specific recommendations, perhaps, or any particular tools when it comes to financial education, financial literacy, other, best practices, and even just, recommendations. Hey, this bank down the street has worked with our clients before. They understand all the the processes, that we know that they're inexpensive, they're no cost checking accounts, things like that. You certainly can find a different bank if you want, but that one we know works with our clients and does a really good job, and understands what's going on. So those kind of recommendations are key. And then any particular tools, budgeting tools, other sort of information, please talk with them and ask for that sort of additional guidance. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, I want to also acknowledge and focus on which core services and wraparound services for refugee resettlement that this sort of general financial literacy sort of falls into. The first one, perhaps, you didn't think about it this way, but providing, and this is often the local office, the local agency will do this, is provide appropriate amount of pocket money. Sometimes sponsors may contribute to that or may participate in that core service, but there's certainly, at least a little bit of discussion about having an appropriate amount of pocket money, about cash. What are the limitations? What's sort of a safe amount of pocket money? Recognizing that one of the issues with pocket money is that it can get lost, and then if it's lost, it's gone. There's whereas in obviously if money is in a bank or bank account or something like that, you can get that money back. It's there. You can't just lose it. but also just in terms of how much things cost here in the United States, especially, upon first arrival. So, what is a reasonable cost of a meal or some groceries or a hat or, a jacket or something like that. So just some like information about that. So, again, these are just some things. It may also be like providing a wallet or a purse or something like that, a place to keep money, a safe place on your person. So that could be part of it. Another one is develop and implement a resettlement service plan. Now, this one is usually done by the local office staff, but it can be done in active collaboration with a sponsor group as well. And the resettlement service plan, developing it and implementing it, really is about setting some of those bigger goals. What are the employment goals? What is goals perhaps for transportation, short or long term? Perhaps education goals may be included in that. There are some things that certainly are related to financial issues, perhaps in that. Whether they're things that have certain costs associated with them, or again, like long-term stability of the client and family going forward. So it might play into that resettlement service as well. Another one obviously is employment or employment program enrollment, things like that. Oftentimes when you first start a job, one of the things that they will ask for is, how do you want your paycheck? They may ask for a routing number and a check, so that they can deposit directly into your bank account. So that would require a person to have a bank account in order for that paycheck to be delivered. Or if they're just going to be, mailed a check or handed a check at the end of the week or the end of 2 weeks, then okay, so then what do you do with that? How does someone cash that check? Is it safe to just cash that entire check and keep it as cash? What are the implications of that in terms of risk of something being stolen or something being lost? All of that, all of these sort of issues, are interrelated. There are some wraparound services that we often talk about, things like assistance with setting up and managing a bank account. So that comes down to, how do we set up a bank account? How do we keep track of our money? How do we use a check? How do we keep that checkbook to know your balance? Those kinds of things. Another one is providing, a budget and or financial management assistance. So that's another wraparound service, and you can see exactly how this financial literacy plays into that, or is related to that. Helping the family come up with a budget, with how much income do they have, what are all of their expenses, laying out, how those two numbers relate to each other, what things can potentially be cut in terms of expenses, what additional incomes can potentially be added to it, how long are some of those incomes going to last for. Some are relatively short-lived, or only in a few months or something like that. Something like refugee cash assistance, that doesn't happen forever. It only lasts for a certain number of months. Things like that. And then also another one, ensure newcomers understand their travel loan and payment options. So refugees, when they come here with a travel loan, and that they need to understand how that affects their credit. It actually is one of the ways in which refugees have the opportunity to build a credit history by paying off those travel loans. The IOM who holds those loans will work with refugees to set up a payment plan that is reasonable. And so then they start paying that off, and they have a history of it. That is one of the things, that it can be a stress for a lot of our clients, you know, knowing that they have that loan, but sort of establishing, you know, a payment plan, and a reasonable one that you know isn't burdensome to them can help reassure them that they can do it and build that credit history over time. So all really important things, and all of these services relate to the sort of overall issue of financial literacy, financial health, and well-being. Go ahead to the next slide. Okay, so we will be sort of focused on and talking about the FDIC's Money Smart curriculum. It has changed over the last few years. Like I said, I was using it 10 years ago, give or take a little bit, and it was sort of I took a course that was like train the trainer, and so then I became a trainer who then could provide that the curriculum to with clients in sort of oftentimes in a group setting, working with multiple people. Now, it is in English and it is available in Spanish, but I think that is the limitations of its language. So you certainly have to think through, you know, what is the best method to get this information to clients that we may be working with. So there are a couple of things. Obviously, if our clients have high levels of English, perhaps they're able to read or listen to, you know, able to do it themselves or with limited guidance. If they are have relatively low English, then you know you've basically got two options. You're going to need to utilize an interpreter of some kind. You know, it might be too expensive to like have an interpreter there, you know, with the client kind of listening to all of this curriculum. It might be best for the sponsor group member, the financial team, committee team as part of the co-sponsor group, someone to kind of go through the curriculum, to learn it, to become familiar with it, and then sort of digest the most important points and focus on those most important points, including like the tools, and then just sort of go through it, you know, with the client and an interpreter, sort of, you know, so like for an hour at a time or something, get an interpreter for an hour, work on one module together, and then, you know, and then the next day, a week later or whatever, work on another module. So there's some flexibility there. You do have to kind of be creative in utilizing this. So one of the things that the Money Smart curriculum did was that they sort of moved to this game format. You know, it's not, I don't know if I call it a game, but that's what they're calling it, and that it makes, I understand kind of what they're doing. They kind of, it's sort of interactive. It's meant to be a little bit more interactive. I will, in the follow-up email, we'll send you a link here for that how Money Smart Are You game, a link, and you can take it, you can observe it, you can look at it, you can kind of play around with it and see how it works. In the game, so again, like I said, it was this sort of curriculum that was being taught by sort of community members. Now it's kind of a self accessible game, they call it, but it, you know, because you answer questions as sort of a way of quizzing yourself that you've understood the concepts that were being taught to you, and so then you kind of earn points. So that's how they're calling it a game. But the sort of chapters or modules that you learn about are listed here, and they're in alphabetical order. And so we're going to talk a little bit about just my recommendations for which ones might be most important, or to sort of focus on first, or sort of, you know, that I think will be most helpful to you. But they are borrowing basics, so, you know, generally talking about borrowing in general, building your financial future, buying a home, so a focus on sort of home ownership and all the stuff that goes into being ready for home ownership, Credit reports and scores, again, important to understand, especially eventually if you want to own a home or you want to take out a loan for a car or things like that. Disasters and financial preparation and recovery, making housing decisions in general, managing debt, protecting your identity and other assets, important. Certainly we know that our clients, because that they often have limited English, that they unfortunately are sometimes targeted by people looking to steal their identity and other things like that. So it talks about how to protect that. Using credit cards, you can bank on it. So that's about like starting a bank account and all the ins and outs of having a bank account. Your income and expenses, your money values and influences. So, you know, your overall goals and what kinds of things that you want to sort of focus on with your financial goals, your savings, and then your spending and savings plan. And each one of them have some key takeaways. So kind of those key points of interest that I think is helpful for us as sponsors, volunteers to focus on, to say, okay, here are the key takeaways from this chapter, to be able to focus on for efficiency and making sure that you know, we're getting the information in an efficient way. And then some specific tools. And so we'll talk about all of those. I'm going to have links to the game itself or the curriculum itself, as well as those tools. So we're going to talk about some of the key takeaways from some of the modules that I think are sort of most important to focus on, at least early. So go ahead to the next slide, please. Yeah, that first one is you can bank on it. And this one is about having a bank account in general, why it's important. These key takeaways are things like consider your needs and shop around for financial products and services. So first kind of gives you a general sense of like, you know, why are having a bank account, why is having a bank account important? What's the difference between a checking account and a savings account? Those kinds of things. Know the general process for opening a savings or checking account, including your options if you are initially unable to open an account. And so this curriculum is geared towards the unbanked or underbanked, oftentimes because of perhaps a bad credit history or past experiences. Some people are not able to get a bank account even if they want to. And sometimes our clients, oftentimes based on whether or not they have the sort of an acceptable identification, sometimes early on, is when they first arrive, are not able to get a bank account right away. But it talks about what is needed. How, once our clients have their Social Security card, for example, then they can open a bank account. They can learn the rules of your account and keep track of how to use it. This can help you, keep costs down and develop a positive banking relationship. Understanding how, is there a minimum amount that you have to have? You have to have at least $50 in your bank account. Otherwise, they're going to charge you some sort of fee. What happens when you overdraft? How do you set those sort of rules? And then, because if you overdraft, not only do you owe the money that you overdraft on, but then they add an additional fee to it, those kinds of things. And then just, kind of talking generally about prepaid cards that allow you to spend or access money loaded onto them. So those are like those, cards you can get at the grocery store. And it's a Visa card essentially, but you have to load money onto it. But you just also need to recognize what sort of fees are happening on that card or associated with that card. And then there is a tool that, again, I'll connect you with in the email follow-up, but it is a tool that essentially lays out learning the parts of a check. If you've never written a check before, if you don't understand what that is, there are important pieces: the date, the signature, how much money in terms of numbers, but then also it has to be written out. The memo, perhaps, explaining what it is for rent or what have you. Those kinds of things. How, don't put your social security number on your check, on your checks, those kinds of things, because they can be, stolen or used. So it's a really helpful tool that you can use to then, work with a client and explain, okay, here's how you write a check. Here are the parts of a check. These are the routing numbers, and this is the check number. That kind of thing. It's helpful tools. Let's go on to the next one. Great. So that first one was about about having a bank account, the importance of having a bank account. The second one is your income and expenses. I really think, this is sort of a budgeting issues, making sure that clients understand all of their income, understanding all of their expenses. And so this is a helpful module for focusing on that. There are actually a couple of really nice tools that are associated with this one. One is kind of a monthly expense log, so it helps clients, and you can help clients list out all of their monthly expenses. When are they due? What are they? Listing all of those out. Then your monthly income, how much are those different incomes? Our clients, refugee clients, might have a bunch of different sort of income streams. They might have refugee cash assistance. They might have SNAP benefits. Some might have TANF or welfare or something like that. So you can help list all of those. When do those benefits actually arrive? Like what time of the month? Is it the beginning? Is it the 15th? Is it at the end of the month? Those kinds of things. And seeing those kind of listed out clearly. Maybe they have employment. Okay, and then they also have sort of another tool that talks about the different ways of paying bills. So sometimes if a client has a bank account, and if that bank account is associated, with a debit card, it may also have online access. So they might have an app that they can access on their phone. They can, or on their computer, they could connect their bank account with their bills. So like their electric bill or their phone bill or their water bill or sewage and trash bill or anything like that. They might be able to do it that way. They might have to buy a money order, or maybe have to write a personal check and mail it in. They might be able to call a phone number and then utilize their debit card to pay that bill via the phone number. There are all kinds of different ways. If their rent, they might need to drop it off at the apartment, main office or something like that. So there are all different kinds of possibilities for how they may pay off those bills. This is a way to help think through that and help keep it organized. It's a useful tool. Go ahead to the next slide. Another one I think is really important is, especially thinking long-term and bigger picture, is understanding credit reports and scores. This one helps, your credit history can affect your access to credit, loans, even jobs, housing, insurance, and other important services. Understanding your rights helps you know how to protect your credit history. So that's kind of a key takeaway. You can take steps to improve and manage your credit scores. These include paying your bills on time and as agreed. So generally how to keep a good credit history. It teaches you how to get and review your credit report, and you can do that for free once every 12 months to make sure that the information is accurate, or to argue with something that was put on your credit report that you didn't do or you didn't start. So you can appeal those. If you find an error on your credit report, it talks to you about how to file a dispute right away, and to be sure to keep records and follow up. And then your credit history does not have to be your credit future. How to change, if you have a bad credit history, how to increase into a more positive credit history. And there is, again, another tool specifically geared towards that called Build My Credit, which kind of talks about and helps you think through how to build good credit. Let's go on to the next one. Another one that I think is important to kind of focus on early on is this borrowing basics. Be sure that you can afford the payments before getting a loan. Also, know how much the loan will cost and what will happen if you don't make payments on time. I think one of the perhaps most popular things for newcomer clients, the sort of first big loan beyond the travel loan, is probably a car loan, because many people want to do that at some point when they are ready. That this is one of those kind of big purchases, and maybe it doesn't happen until after being here for a year, but this is kind of the first sort of big thing to do. And so it's about helping clients make sure that they understand what their responsibilities are, what would be the consequences if they stopped making payments, how to work with a lender if they need any changes or potentially to get any sort of help with paying the loan. To help prepare to apply for that loan, consider what lenders look for when they decide to loan money. So again, understanding your credit score and credit history has an effect on the rate at which that lenders will let you borrow at those different rates based on your credit score. If you have a good credit score, you'll have a better rate. So these are important concepts and for clients to understand. And that if someone else is helping them manage their money, just to make sure that they themselves understand the loan before they commit to it. Again, there's another helpful tool. It's called Get Ready to Borrow Money. Just kind of helps people think through all of the issues regarding borrowing and what the consequences may be. Go ahead to the next slide. And then the other sort of big purchase, obviously big dream, you can understand and you can imagine why becoming eventually a homeowner for refugee clients who by definition have had to flee their homes because of a well-founded fear for their lives if they were to stay, and then lived potentially in refugee camps or other types of places. Here now they've come to the United States to start their life over, to have a new chapter in their life. The importance, the pride that comes with eventually working towards home ownership, how important that might be to our clients in that way. And obviously this isn't a thing that can happen within the first 3 months of arrival or anything like that, but these are big, important long-term goals. Maybe a year or 2 or 3 or 5, down the road. And so thinking about that process and understanding all of the things that might need to, take place in that general process. So, buying a home is a big process. Start by making sure that you're ready to buy and figuring out what you can afford. This module can help them think through that. Understanding loan and loan, all of the details of that loan, learn about financing options and buying a home, and shop around to get the best deal. Get help with the home buying process, interview before you hire help, and ask for references, having a real estate agent of some kind. Understand what services you'll receive and how much they'll cost. And then there is, again, another nice tool that could be helpful, kind of called Path to Buying a Home, that can help people think through that entire process. And again, this is one of those bigger long-term goals. Perhaps this is more towards the end or an ongoing big picture, but it's good to think through and understand early on, what is that process? How do we save for a down payment? How do we establish a good credit history? And these kinds of things as we move in that direction. So that really is it for the gist of the Money Smart curriculum. And again, like I said, I kind of focused on the few that I thought were most relevant, that you would, in order to be sort of efficient with your use of time and use of an interpreter, that those might be the modules that you would want to focus on, certainly focus on first. But all of the modules are really helpful and can be really interesting for clients. And you can kind of look at those modules and see which one or which additional ones might be most useful to you and to the client that you might be working with. So I want to take a minute and see if anyone has any questions. I don't see anything in the questions tab just yet. That's okay. If no one has any questions, you certainly don't have to, but we have a couple minutes if you want. If you have if you've wanted to ask a question and you didn't get a chance to yet, please feel free to do that now. And remember to do that in the questions tab. So we'll just take a minute. I'll wait just in case anyone has any questions. Like I said, I will follow up after this, the next day or so, with some important links and other things like that for your interest. Yeah, but okay, yeah, and I don't see anything else in the questions. Oh, okay, hold on. Just as I said that, someone included something. Okay, so this question is this training offer guidance on keeping enough money for bills versus sending it to family overseas? So I don't think, although I could be wrong, I don't think there's anything specific to that, but you bring up a really important issue, certainly specific to our clients, to newcomers, to refugees. The interest in sending money to family overseas, I think we all hopefully can understand the drive to do that. Sometimes the feelings of guilt that clients feel that they are here and safe, and knowing that they have other family members and important people in their life who may still be in danger. And so feeling like, the importance of trying to send money back to family members so that they can survive. But we also all know that our clients still have a responsibility here. They've signed a lease, and so they have to pay the rent. They need electricity to survive. They can't just not have electricity or not pay for the water bill or not have enough, food to feed themselves and their family. So yeah, there's nothing specific to it, but I think that there are lots of options in the curriculum where someone who is aware of that as an issue, a volunteer, a sponsor, a staff member, can clearly point to, like, for example, in the family budget, here is all of your income, here is all of your expenses. Here are those two numbers, and here's how much of a difference there is. And if there is more money in income than there are in expenses, you can absolutely help talk about. So clearly, sending some money back to family is a really important value for you. I want to encourage you, if it's important to you, to do that, if you have the money to do that. But let's be clear about whether or not you do, and whether or not there are other things. If you're also talking about your long-term goal of saving up for a car, for example, how does that fit into this number that we're seeing right here, where it says your income is this, your expenses are this, and here's the difference? What are you going to do with that difference? Are you going to maybe you can half it. You can say, okay, I can clearly send half of this to family members overseas. I can take the other half and put it into savings, and then it's going to take me 1 year or 2 years to save up enough for a car or something like that. So there's nothing specific in the curriculum, but there are certainly lots of opportunities throughout the curriculum for someone who understands this issue to bring it up and to talk about it in those ways, to clearly identify, what are your goals? What do you want to do? Here's your income versus expenses. Thank you for that question. It's definitely an important issue that comes up. If anyone else has a question, please feel free. But we are real close to time anyway, so it is okay if we don't. Grace, if you don't mind going to the next slide here. Yeah, I want to give everyone an opportunity. This is a QR code if you use your phone, or I think Grace just put it in the chat, a direct link to a JOT form. It is a survey that is just asking you for some feedback about the Lunch and Learn series, about this specific Lunch and Learn, what you took from it, what you liked about it, how we can improve it. If you have any ideas for future Lunch and Learns, any ideas for future potential speakers that you would like to see here, please let us know. It's a great opportunity for you all to provide us feedback, and we appreciate any time that you can do that. Other than that, I just want to say thanks to you all for being here and for attending today's RWC Lunch and Learn. You will receive a follow-up email with a link to view the recording of today's webinar. And just on behalf of Refugee Welcome Collective, thank you so much for joining us, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.